This is Donna Maloney, Chair of the Charter Club Committee, and I will officially call the meeting to order. I will begin with a roll call. Please respond if you are here. Anita? Anita?
Here. I'm here.
Thank you. Claudia? Claudia? I think I heard Claudia, yes. Judy? Judy? Karen?
Yes.
Thank you. Diane?
Yes.
Otto? Otto? Tom?
Yes.
Judy, are you online now? No response from Judy. Otto, are you online?
Judy is online. This is Anita. Judy is online. I don't think she can hear us.
Okay, but she is online. And Otto, are you available?
Judy
All
Thompson.
right, so, thanks, Judy. Otto? All right, I have not heard from Otto. I've got Anita, Claudia, Judy, Karen, Diane, and Tom. That establishes a quorum. I'd like to move on to item number 2, minutes from the November 10th Charter Club Committee meeting. Do I have any amendments to those minutes? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Moving into administration, just to let everyone know that Gini Baker has had to resign due to other commitments. And next, moving forward, Katie, you're up. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. I wanted to talk first about the club software we're investigating. So there's been a lot of requests over the years for some kind of club tracking software so that rather than doing head counts or each club having their own method for counting how many people are in the room, we could have some kind of digital check-in system. So trying to find software that meets the very varied needs of 100+ clubs has been challenging, but we're coming up with an idea. We went out and did requests for bids. We did award the contract. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing. Most of you know that we did install a clubs network in the last year. So one of the bright spots, I guess, if there is one, with COVID was we had the opportunity and the time to get into all those club rooms and expedite that infrastructure because it requires on-site every single club room for us to get it hardwired. So we were able to do that during COVID. Every club now has internet hardwired. They can add their own Wi-Fi components, etc. So obviously no kind of software would have been able to happen without that. So that phase is done. And now we're moving into phase 2, which is the software itself. The biggest number one need is to be able to track people coming in and out, but then to also make sure that they're members in good standing, first within the association and then within that individual club. And that individual club database is not something that we as the rec centers currently house in a digital format. Every club has their own way of maintaining that. And I know paper records get to the admin office, but we're going to be developing a database of each of the different club subsets of our membership. So that's a big part of it. And then we wanted to have different user levels and security levels. So club monitors could use the software. Club admins could run reports on that software, and then here over in IT, we could manage the clubs and that kind of stuff at that level. So that's one of the requirements we had as well. We wanted it to be pretty easy to use because we've got all sorts of different user levels at the club. The reporting, like I said, we're going to have some basic reports, how many people per day, who's in, who's out. And then we also wanted to look at some kind of a voting component because we know that that's becoming more and more of a need to have online voting, especially with COVID. And then we wanted it to be scalable for the future as needs change or we have new things we're going to be asking that software. So this is from last month, but like I said, we did award the bid. It's going to be $18,000 to develop the software, configure the database, all of that good stuff. It'll provide training and then support and all of that. We use what we call the train the trainer method, which is we get several key people who learn how to use the software, and those people turn around and do the training to a wider set of people. So we will probably roll this out a few clubs at a time. We're not going to try to hit all 100 all at once. And then there is a licensing fee in subsequent years for the software. So it will be cloud-based because we want the clubs to be able to access it from their different club rooms without having to do several hops back here to our main server. It can run on any PC or it can run on a tablet. It could run even on an iPhone or an Android device. So we know different clubs have different needs. Not all of you may have the space on your counters for a PC. We'll have a barcode scanner, and the barcode scanner will read the existing rec cards. So there's no need for additional cards or components at this stage. So that'll be a nice feature. We have been meeting with the vendor. In fact, I have another meeting this afternoon to walk through the very beginning sketches of the front-facing interface. And we don't have a specific date for rollout because we want to make sure it has all the features and works the way we expect before we roll it out. But it is well underway and moving forward. We're pretty excited about that. And then additionally, like I said, as far as scalability for the future, we could look into having the ability to unlock doors using your rec card. That's not part of this scope, but the software will be built in such a way that that will be possible. And I believe that's all I've got on that specific presentation. I have another presentation after that, but I'm happy to pause if there's any questions.
Everyone, please check your computers or your cell phone and make sure that they are muted. The feedback we're receiving makes it very difficult to hear.
Mr. Werner, Otto, it looks like you may not be muted. Yeah, Otto, I've got you connected 3 different ways, so you're going to have to disconnect a couple of those different connections or we're going to have feedback through this meeting.
Okay.
Otto, you need to, if you're calling in on a phone and on a computer, you got to close some of those connections. All right, I think we're good. Donna, back to you. If anyone has any questions on the club software.
Looks like there's no questions, Katie. So if you'd like to move forward into the YouTube videos.
Sure. So there's been a couple questions about how we access these videos now that we're in the world of COVID. We are recording these meetings and putting them online so people who can't attend live can come back and view them later. So it's pretty convenient, and we've seen a huge uptick in how many people are virtually watching these meetings because in the past, you know, they're not all going to come to our meetings when we had them in person. So in front of you this is also available on Board Docs. So you don't have to memorize it all. But the easiest thing to do is to go to suncitywest.com/gbvideos. And there is another way to get to that, but that one's just a really easy way to remember. That'll bring up this page you're seeing. And then here I have it circled in red is the hyperlink. So that hyperlink will take you to our actual YouTube channel. When you get there, I recommend you bookmark that page because you won't have to go through that first step again. It'll just go right to the YouTube channel. So once you're on our YouTube channel, you're going to want to go up here at the top to something called playlists. And we use playlists to categorize things in a way that makes sense. So for example, our board meetings and committee meetings have a playlist for every month. So if you're looking for January meetings, you've clicked on playlists up here, you're going to see the board meetings for January, and you can click on that one, or if there's one back in, say, December that you missed, you want to go back, just click on that individual playlist. And they're not all meetings. We also have our Torch educational videos that we've put online, so those have been pretty popular. That was a way to keep Torch front and center since we're not able to have the academies right now. And we will be we took a little break over the holidays. We'll be adding some more videos to the Torch educational series. And then we've got updates from the general manager, etc. So once you're in playlist, you click on, say, January. That's going to bring up the list of January meetings. At the top will usually be the one that is coming up next and hasn't necessarily happened yet. And then over here in the bottom right is going to be all the ones that have happened in the past. So you just look for the one that you wanted to watch, cruise through, watch it, and see what's happening with the rec centers. If you don't want to sit through an hour or 2 hour meeting, but you know there's a topic that they covered that's of interest, you can hover over the little timer bar at the bottom, and that is circled in yellow, and it'll show you where you can skip forward, and he's got topics listed on there, so you can jump through to the topic that interests you rather than trying to sit through the whole hour if you're only interested in a specific subject. So that's kind of a summary on there. These instructions, as I said, are posted on Board Docs, so check them out. And then if you pull this up on Board Docs, hyperlinks that I have at the top will be live, and you can just click on them and they'll take you directly to where you need them. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Looks like nobody has any questions, Katie. We will move forward. Everyone has their, hopefully, computers and cell phones muted, please. Up next will be the presentations. Someone's not muted. Please make sure you're muted. The following presentations from Pickleball Club and Desert Garden Club are being presented to the Charter Club Committee for our review and recommendations to the Governing Board for initial authorization to approve funds to retain an architect. The recommendations from our committee may be yay or nay for moving forward. Should the Governing Board authorize the project, a project planning committee is formed for selection of an architect and concept drawings. The project will then come back to our committee for a yay or nay recommendation to the Governing Board for their review and approval of the project. Charter Club's committee focus is on club need. Properties committee focus is facility and location. Budget and finance is finances. I hope everyone has understood what I've just said, and we'll go ahead and move forward with the presentations. Desert Garden, Mike, are you prepared?
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
am. Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
I can hear you.
this is Mike Anderson. I'm the project coordinator for the new greenhouse that we have. And I want to thank everybody for letting us present this information today. This has been an experience for us to get to this point by collecting a lot of information. We took a lot of time and energy to make sure we have a great plan in place. Next slide. Right now, our club has a total of 261 active members, and we continue to grow with new members even with the circumstances. We have a new president and a treasurer for this year that will help us grow our club and make the details more clear. We are working to engage our members to take a larger role in our future. We have had a bumpy last year, as most of you know, but we are looking forward to the future with this new expansion. Next. Our existing greenhouse is only 315 square feet and is over 40 years old, and it is past repairable, and our needs have grown with the addition of the new members. Okay. Our new plan, get the next one. Okay, our new plan.
Katie, go back one more, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our new plan will expand the greenhouse to 960 square feet and help us utilize the area better. We can use the additional space in our greenhouse for training and planting. We will be able to sell more plants to our community and at some point to guests when it is possible. But we'll utilize the Beardsley property much better to utilize for us and the facility. Okay. Next. We want to use the new facility for helping us grow our club with experiences like planting, harvesting, watering, and feeding our plants. And this facility will enable us to have more visibility to our community as well as we grow. Okay. This is a picture of the new greenhouse that Sun City has built last year. They worked with Nexus on their project, and after getting multiple quotes, we have been working with them on ours as well. They were very positive on their experience, and Carl and I were able to visit them and discuss the values and the engineering that they did. Their club basically grows seeds from flowers and vegetables, no cactus, but we've engaged the president there as well, and we look forward to having a relationship with them on things that we both could share with each other. Very positive outcome. Okay. Hope I'm not going too fast. This is the floor plan for our new greenhouse that we are proposing. It will enable us to have room to teach small groups on things that we do in our club, but also expand our growing of succulents and other cactus and utilize the space much better for planting and selling. So we're excited about what this enables us to do and gives us better storage and visibility to a lot of things. Okay. I guess all I want to do is thank everybody for your time and interest in our club. We look forward to making our club strong and grow as a community and as the community knows us better. And we're really excited about this opportunity. And we look forward to any questions if we need to and move forward. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mike. And now committee members, please identify yourself with any questions for Mike, please.
Judy Thompson.
Go ahead, Judy.
I just want to say I really support this project. I've been working with the Garden Club for quite some while in those very closed space, and it really has been a long time coming for this expansion, in my humble opinion.
Thank you, Judy. Anyone else? All right, hearing no other questions, I'd like to hear from each committee member as to a yay or nay for moving this forward for initial project planning to the governing board. Anita?
Yay.
Thank you. Claudia? Claudia? Judy, I'm assuming a yay.
Yay.
Karen?
Yay.
Diane?
Yay.
Otto? Otto? Tom? Tom? Claudia? Do you have voice yet? Claudia? Otto? or Tom?
If you're having audio problems and you can't be heard, you can put your answer out in the chat to the entire group, please.
This is Tom Jones. Yay. A.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Tom. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I'm looking for Otto and Claudia. If you get your sound working, just advise. Otherwise, at this point, we have 5 yays to move this forward. So we will move on to Ken for pickleball presentation, please.
All right. My name is Ken Holtz. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm here at the direction of the Sun City West Pickleball Board as project leader for the expansion project proposed for budget year 22-23. And the title of the presentation is simply The Promise of Pickleball. Each of you have received a variety of attachments that hopefully you have reviewed previously. And the slide presentation today is just going to touch on the portion perspective from the Charter Club perspective and to answer your questions at the end. Next slide, please. The promise of pickleball simply could be summed up best by the principle, if you build it, they will come. Del Webb fully understood this principle in the success that he had building retirement communities like ours all across the country, because he realized the pent-up demand for seeking a retirement active lifestyle for retirees. Sun City West Pickleball has demonstrated an amazing success story when action follows this principle. Oftentimes, people get caught up in it's hard to predict the future, or it's hard to plan for what lies ahead, and therefore it's hard to allocate resources or support. Well, back in 2007, 13 years ago, the Sun City West Pickleball Club stood in front of leaders, much like we are today, and presented what we felt would happen in the future. And because of that support and the action that our club leaders took and made happen, a true success story has unfolded and will continue long into the future. Next slide, please. So today, I'd like to focus on our purpose, and that is to simply touch on rationale, facts, and specifications of the project, address your committee questions, gain your support for the future project. So the topics we'll simply cover would be bringing everyone up to speed on the summary of the status of the project, briefly touch upon the growth of the sport, membership, and utilization of our current space, describe the need briefly, and then reinforce the benefits of making that next step. Finally, dealing with questions and answers as needed. Next slide, please. About a year ago, almost to the day, leaders of the Sun City West Pickleball Club, along with myself, met with the then governing board president, Jim Sloan, and our GM to kind of find out where the expansion project that was presented prior to that time stood in the capital planning process. Basically, out of the 2018 work of the Sun City West Management Space Utilization Committee at the governing board presentation in December of that year, Sun City West Pickleball Club expansion was presented as a phase 3 club-funded master plan recommendation at either the Palm Ridge and or Kuntz potential sites. Without movement happening in 2019, it basically brought us back to the table with key decision makers to find out where we stood. At that meeting in January of last year, then, it was agreed to get back into the capital planning process with these expansion needs. So as a result, a series of meetings took place in 2020, most of which over the summer, covering all the data, the needs, the rationale, site layout options, functionality, club management exactly, et cetera, to come to identifying needs and hopefully thinking through the best possible site applications for that need. As a result of that, we received feedback in September from the GM confirming that Sun City West Rec Management understood our needs, and it has been woven into the capital planning schedule. First of all, with a recommended meeting where the Sun City West Project Management Group would present to the club a concept of what that site would look like, and also some budget parameters in terms of what that also would look like. We then were to, once that meeting was taking place, we were then to secure a membership support and a vote behind that, and also determine a financial commitment level that the club would be willing to make that expansion possible. After that, we were to revise the current CR13 on file, which we've done, and then begin our presentations to committees like we are today for the Charter Club. We're scheduled in early February for property and also for the governing board workshop in February. Ultimately, allowing the governing board to approve design engineering funding in May of this year, and then ultimately take those design engineering funding plans and make it reality for approval in May of next year, with a completed project goal of having courts built to supply the need for about 2 years from today in 2023. Next slide, please. So we talk about the success story of pickleball. When you look at it, it truly is amazing. When you think about it, came to the community in 2002 within the tennis club, introducing it to the community. Later in 2005, pickleball became the 105th charter club for Sun City West, utilizing 3 dedicated R.H. Johnson courts that were built for approximately $67,000 with membership of a couple hundred people. Later, with expanding of the club and use needs, 3 tennis courts over at Palm Ridge that were underutilized were reconstructed to 10 pickleball courts at the cost of $230,000, and membership stood at about 600 members. In addition to in 2014, the remaining 3 tennis courts at Palm Ridge had deteriorated and underutilized, were transformed into 8 additional pickleball courts and a gathering space at the cost of $267,000, and the club stood at just over 1,000 members. Once the club kept growing in 2016-17, we were able to approach the community once again, and we built a standalone 8-court facility at the R.H. Johnson facility at a cost of approximately $360,000, and membership had grown to just over 1,300 members. Well, today we're at over 1,550 members. We're still growing, and pickleball continues to represent a very dynamic and changing demographic for retirement lifestyle choices in Sun City West. Next slide, please. Looking at an expansion need, of course, membership of a club and vitality of the club is a very important component. This slide simply depicts the last 5 years of growth of the club. We've actually grown at 11% year-over-year average rate for the last 5 years. And the projection moving forward for this particular, because we're looking at providing enough space to cover our needs for the next minimum of 10 years. We've used a 3.5% projection growth rate. When you consider we average over 82% retention of members throughout our history as a club, and we attract 200 to 400 new members a year, it's basically a very vital and growing club. Next slide, please. The club has demonstrated excellent leadership and has put forth action behind the programs and this membership satisfaction that can be delivered. Our culture is one of a world-class pickleball club focused on success. In fact, we claim to be the world's largest pickleball club at this state and time. Currently, well, not during COVID days, but normally we would have over 46 playing scheduled programs weekly for our membership. We have monthly events year-long with 150 to 450 people attending each of those events. We sponsor and put on annual tournaments both for the club and nationally, attracting literally thousands of people. We conduct lesson and skill development with over 1,500 participants participating October through April of each season. We focus very strongly on giving back to our community. To date, in the last 6 years, we've generated over $116,000 through our Day for Charity ball drop, with 100% of those funds being donated to charitable worthy nonprofit organizations in our community. And this all happens through a very organized volunteer program, over 550 documented working volunteers in various areas, making things happen for our club. So in total, our club leaders, our volunteers, our membership, along with the support we've gotten from committees and the governing board. So this translates into participation. This simply shows the growth in sign-in activity during the high season, January through April, which is only 33% of the calendar year, but it produces 52% of the annual activity in pickleball. The blue area represents the activity at Palm Ridge. The green area represents the activity growth at R.H. Johnson. Basically, it represents a 15.3% year-over-year activity growth. Next slide, please. We looked at based upon utilization, meaning that you can have all the activity, but how many actual courts are being used with this activity? So this chart basically demonstrates the number of sign-ins per high season per court available. And we use this information to kind of predict what the future looks like, meaning the two blue vertical dotted lines help demonstrate when we have had construction projects in the work before. So just prior to the high season of 2014, when we added 8 additional courts at Palm Ridge, you can see where sign-in activity high season was at 1,462 sign-ins per court. When we built those 8 additional courts, of course, that number is going to drop because it's divisible by a larger number of courts. But then what happens after that is the club continues to grow, activity and participation continues to grow, and that number starts to climb. And once it starts to reach a certain level, we know we need to add more space to support that demand. So in 2017, you can see we added a net new 5 courts because we had to close 3 courts in the tennis facility. But once again, that number dropped a little bit. But in 2019, we are already above the level when we were building courts back in 2016 and 17. Next slide, please. The future, meaning that the blue area represents the actual demonstration of growth. Those total annual sign-in activity for the club. The green line represents the high season, which is very important because during the high season, when everyone is here, is when the demand is the strongest and satisfaction needs to be delivered. So this shows using the 3.5% average growth, with a club growing to over 2,000 members within the next 10 years, it demonstrates the need. Next slide, please. Basically, in order to translate what that need looks like, our goal as a club is to make sure that 100% of our facilities are in use between 7 and 9 hours per day. And this chart demonstrates how many hours of a day is basically utilized during high season during the periods represented here, different years. And moving forward, we wanted to make sure that we build enough courts to ensure that optimum level is able to be maintained and lived within. So the projection that we presented so far is all based upon the data that we've been tracking for over 17 years. And it demonstrates that 14 additional courts will keep us within the 100% of court utilization between a 7 and 9 hour uses per day. Next slide, please. revisions from the recommendation provided by Sun City West Management Capital Projects. Basically, it's connected to the current facility, utilizing the current access points of our club today. It represents rerouting some things, which I realize may be more of a property issue, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that a connected site versus a near but not connected site are in discussion. Specifications are the same as our Palm Ridge courts. We're adding shade in the expansion area, in waiting to play and gathering space, also in the current. Added storage facilities in the plan. Excellent foot traffic from parking to entrance is being planned. In other words, the current 40-inch wide sidewalk is going to be expanded to allow for the number of people that are accessing the site. Restroom expansion is part of this, and also a net loss of approximately 51 parking spots will result. It's important to note that the parking at Palm Ridge provides 575 parking spots for the facility's use, and we've been assured by project managements that the parking in Palm Ridge is more than adequate to accomplish the goals of the facility even after expansion. Next slide. So to wrap this up, this represents and supports the current and growing demand and needs of the club and pickleball play in Sun City West. It leverages, and this is important because it leveraged pickleball as a key retirement lifestyle choice. Pickleball has emerged in the majority of new retirement lifestyle communities as a lead marketing tool to have people move there because it's such a popular activity in retirement. Palm Ridge is best suited for both the community and the club as a recommended site for this expansion. And the club is able to financially commit to help make this happen for a strong return on investment. Next slide, please. The ability to contribute. Our club has contributed to the development of the community and of the development of our growth along the way. Back in 2010, when we were just a couple hundred members, we generated $6,000 to help launch the first expansion. In 2014, and this is prior to policy that requiring clubs to contribute to their growth. Prior to that even being formed, we committed $93,500 to the facility development. In 2015 and 16, we continued to invest into Palm Ridge by donating, or basically spending additional over $30,000 for facility improvements. In 2017, when the 8 net 5 courts to R.H. Johnson were built, the club committed $343,500 to that project, of which all of that has been paid except for $77,000, and that is scheduled for payment in December, the 4th quarter of 2021. We already have the funds for that, and the 10-year gracious loan that the association provided to the association will be paid back within 6 years. And finally, we invested $18,000 in addition to the R.H. Johnson facility to provide for shade for its users. And here we are today committing $960,000 for the expansion to take place in the 2022-23 budget. Next slide. So basically, we would like to address any questions or comments you may have, follow up as needed if needed, and of course, secure your support moving forward. And on the next slide, there is a list of potential subjects that you may be interested in, and we are willing to stick around as long as available to address any of these for you. So I'd like to turn the meeting back over to Donna and Katie, and I'll respond accordingly.
Thank you, Ken. I'd like to now go to the committee and individually, do we have any questions for Ken regarding this proposed project?
Judy Thompson?
Yes, Judy.
I'm curious as to why it's only 7 to 9 hours per day of productive use when there are many more hours in the day.
Yes,
Ken?
basically the courts are open from, I believe it's 6:30 in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, so approximately 15 hours per day. But those hours are much like a golf course or any other activity that we have. Everyone has preferred schedules and other things in their calendar. So approximately, we look at 7 to 9 hours of the day being prime use or 100% use of the facility. That doesn't mean that the facility is empty those other hours. It's just that they may not, there is fringe areas where there might be 4 to 5 courts open and swimming. But these hours are also important because it allows outside club activity play also. So in other words, when you take the 15 hours and you start removing the early morning hours, because number one, as a good neighbor to the facility that we have, we don't start any club programs till after 8 a.m. And we also schedule them to end before 8:30 in the evening. In addition to that, when you look at temperatures during high season, much like we've experiencing most winters, pickleball play doesn't really generate participation until after they hit the 50-degree mark. Prior to 50 degrees, when the temperature is in the 40s, the plastic balls that we use, since we're an outdoor facility, crack very frequently. And then finally, it's just important to note that people go home for lunch, they eat, they go home for dinner, and they have preferred times of play. But if you look at the numbers and you also look at the monitor counts that are taking place, the pickleball facilities are extremely busy.
Thank you.
This is Lyanne Hathaway.
Thanks. Yes, Diane, go ahead.
I was just wondering, in your projected growth, do you incorporate the, and I'm just wondering if that's what's driving some of the growth, the changes in the demographics for Sun City West, that we're getting a younger group coming in, and this is a very popular sport outside of the Sun City West. So did you include some discussion about the change in the demographics, and that's impacting your projected growth?
Yes. One of the things we do is we benchmark against Sun City Grand. Sun City Grand is a smaller community than ours, but it has a very active and large pickleball contingency. But it's also a younger community than ours. So what we do is we track the number of pickleball members of their club versus the number of rooftops that they have. And we do the same percentage for here. And we find that our percentage is lower than theirs, but is particularly growing at the same rate as theirs. So what it tells us is that as we grow younger as a Sun City West community, the pickleball club will benefit greatly for that. We also wanted to use a conservative estimate moving forward, meaning that we're projecting 15 years, and a lot of things can happen over 15 years. But right now, the industry is on fire. Pickleball is exploding off the map all over the country. Venues and courts are being built left and right, and it's all a great trend for what's occurring here, especially in Sun City West. Hopefully that helps you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Tom
Thank
Jones?
you, Ken. Oh, Tom, yes, go ahead.
Ken, would you speak to the covered courts aspect? And the second thing, the future of the R.H. Johnson courts being given back to the community and having the Palm Ridge being the main courts?
There's two questions there. One is the effect of with R.H. Johnson. Let me discuss covered courts first. As part of our expansion request, we have requested that 8 of the 14 courts become covered. And when we say covered, we're not talking brick and mortar. We're talking a facility that provides a barrier to wind, a barrier to rain, and provide a reduction in temperature perception from shade, okay? And so that can be interpreted a variety of ways, and that would be best left up to the engineering and design experts to provide a solution for that. Presently, we been talking and provided with options of, let's say, a metal roof structure with some sort of fabric or material for siding to provide an enclosed but not, it's still an outdoor experience for outdoor living, but provide the barriers that we're looking for. The key is that a covered court facility, if done correctly, and it has to be done correctly, will provide a year-round benefit to pickleball play in Sun City West. And in the attachment that I provided, if you've had a chance to look at it, it demonstrates that basically there are days of the year due to rain, due to wind, and due to temperature that would then become available for pickleball play. And we've tried to dimensionalize that game for both the high season, the mixed months of May, June, October, and December, and then also the high temperature months. Realizing that just because we have shade doesn't mean we're going to get play all day in the summertime. It gets too damn hot. But it would expand the current early morning play hours well past the 9:30 mark, when typical play goes from 5:30 in the morning till 9:30 in the summer, when courts are very busy. But it would expand those hours. And that report basically shows that we would be able to generate an additional minimum 15,000 sign-ins of activity for pickleball play here in Sun City West if good covered court solution was available. Does that answer that question?
Yes, Ken, thank you.
All right. Regarding the component of R.H. Johnson, we feel as the Pickleball Club that, first of all, it's important to allow pickleball play and set aside space for non-club opportunity for play. Even though we have over 1,550 members in our club, we also know there's another 300 or 400 people playing pickleball in Sun City West that are not members of our club. Hopefully we'll earn their membership someday, but I think that trend will continue. And guest play is important for pickleball because it's become an active pastime for visitors and families. So when expansion is completed, the standard 10% rule applies, meaning that the club has always set aside community courts for non-club use, meaning that the club would never sponsor or, schedule programming on the community courts in the community. So currently 3 of the 8 courts at R.H. Johnson are always set aside. Courts number 1, 2, and 3 are community courts. The thought process is that by having the adequate space at Palm Ridge expansion, that the 8 courts at R.H. Johnson would be set aside totally as non-scheduled programming courts of the club, so that they would be available to the community all the time through open reservation. Does that address that?
Yeah, yes, Ken, thank you. That was very well explained.
Thank you. Anything else?
Hearing nothing more, Ken, great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Now
all.
thank you. I would like to hear now from each committee member as to a yay or nay in moving this forward for initial authorization to approve funds to retain an architect. Anita. I'm sorry.
Yay,
Thank you.
yay.
Claudia?
Judy?
Did I hear from Claudia? Was that a yay? I'm sorry, I could not hear. Did anyone else hear Claudia? All right, Judy,
Yay.
Karen,
Yay.
thank you. Lyanne,
Yay.
thank you. Otto. Otto. And Tom.
Yay.
Thank you. Again, I have been unable to hear from Claudia and Otto, but we do have 5 yeas to move this forward to the governing board. Thank you, everyone. Now I would like to ask for any other comments from committee members.
Unknown caller.
We have an unknown caller, Katie.
No, that's just join me making a remark. There's no comments from the public at this time.
All righty. And no further comments from the committee? All righty. Thank you, everyone. I will adjourn this meeting, and the next meeting will be February 9th, 9 a.m. And again, that will be virtual. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.